One thing I really like about these fabrics is there are multiple colors woven into the actual thread. We can all agree this is green, but they look a little bit different. So within this green, we have a silver thread and a gray thread running vertically through this panel. On this piece, we have the gray and the silver running this direction. This one looks lighter than this one because of the way that it catches the light. So these are the things you definitely want to look out for while you're wrapping these panels. And then all we need to do is turn this thing 90 degrees, and now the colors look exactly the same. So it's because of all the grains are running the same direction, but that is something that you're going to look out for if you're wrapping panels. Like there's a pretty good example of like how much different they look when you flip them 90 degrees. So you don't necessarily need a fabric wrapping table. It definitely makes life a lot easier. One little pro tip I like, just get some sawhorses and a 4x8 sheet of 3/4 inch MDF, and just use that as a work table. You can drill into it, you can glue on top of it, it's great. It's a super nice big workbench for wrapping or for really anything throughout your van build. If you have to do this on the floor, just make sure you sweep everything up because of stuff, the glue and everything like that. Put some cardboard down, makes life a little bit easier. So when you lay this out, make sure it's nice and even. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you definitely don't want any like big creases or anything like that inside your cloth. And then the same principle as before with the foam. So another thing to watch out for is, again, it's like the square. There are lines that run through this and they're very, very even. So try and get everything as square and as even as possible, because you don't want the fabric to be running diagonally or just a little bit off. We're gonna go ahead and trace this guy out again. I like these little Sharpie paint pens. They're super nice, very helpful. So again, the tracing just kind of helps out, gives you an idea so you're not putting way too much glue in places that you don't want to be putting glue. Flip the guy over, and there you have everything. Now you're ready to start throwing down some glue. And again, just make sure you get, if there's anything on there, any bumps, any pieces of sawdust, you don't want that stuff to show through. So again, same thing. This stuff is pretty resilient to, like, you know, the glue soaking through. It's pretty thick stuff, and it has almost like a rubberized feeling coating on the backside. But you kind of want to go a little bit heavy with this. You want to get a complete coverage, but not so much that it's soaking through. Get a couple extra pieces. If you have some pieces laying around, just try gluing it up, sticking it to things, and getting a little bit of practice. But definitely want to get full coverage and let it tack up. If you don't get that, they have the tendency to kind of start bubbling and peeling off the wall panel. So go ahead and glue this up. So there's a solid coverage right here. Let that tack up. That'll definitely not pull off. And then on the foam side, you don't have to go as crazy because you did put a good amount on the fabric. Cool. We'll go ahead and let that set up for a little bit. Again, like it's wet. Like you can feel, like as you touch it, it smooths out. It doesn't really stick to your fingers very well. Wait until it's pretty tacky where you touch it and almost wants to pull the cloth away with your hand. So that's about when you're gonna wanna start wrapping the thing around. Now our glue is all set up. We're gonna do the same thing, lift the panel up and then drop it down and smooth it out. So again, pretty easy. Make sure you don't have any creases. Go ahead and lift this panel up. And we have all of our lines from where we previously traced the panel out. Again, doesn't need to be perfect, but it definitely helps to be close. Now we know everything is smoothed out. Just gonna go ahead, drop that panel on there. Cool. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this guy out. We want about an inch overhang to wrap it, inch and a half. So, get a little point, razor blade, 3/4 of an inch, so you can kind of wrap in there, get an idea. You don't have to necessarily trace it out. It is okay to eyeball this one. But you definitely want enough fabric to wrap around. So we're gonna flip this guy over just to make sure all this is seated well. And again, just kind of rub your hands over it. Make sure your hands are clean. And do your best to not like slap this because it can leave handprints. And make sure all those little bubbles are out. And it helps to kind of put it against the light, check to see if there are any bubbles, and work them down. At that point, flip the guy back over. Now we're gonna wanna get our corners. Cool, so now the goal here is to wrap everything evenly around the backside of this panel. So the corners are a little bit tricky, and then big radius, they are also a little bit tricky, but we'll show you a couple little easy techniques to make this nice and clean, because if you don't cut this a specific way, when you fold this stuff over, you're gonna have a lot of cloth bunching up like that, and that just gets in the way of, you know, it's just your wall is not gonna be flush to the van, and then it can cause a couple issues of wall panels not fitting. When you wrap these over, well, what we're gonna go through right now is how to cut these corners and how to cut the radius. It's very, very easy, and if you do this right, it looks super, super pro. A good way to kind of explain this whole thing is put your shears up, and you have, you know, it's running parallel with the wall, and then you parallel with the wall. Take that, and then like 45. So this is about the direction of the cut. So we wanna make a little snip. We don't wanna cut it all the way off. So we have a little flap about that far. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. So now we have these two little flaps. Now what we're gonna wanna do is cut this little guy out. So what we're looking for is a little strip that looks like this. So that way, when you fold these guys over, whoop, fold that guy right there, and then you're done. And then it's nice, it's clean, there's not too much. I like to get a little piece of, we have a couple pieces of metal that we use, they're like little pokers, and we'll heat them up with a torch and smooth those things over. Because this stuff will fray, but getting this stuff nice and even is super clutch. So, we're gonna get the rest of these corners, and then we're gonna finish gluing this bad boy down. And that's about what you're looking for right there. So, nice flush, not bulging out too far. It's not gonna press your wall out, and it's gonna be nice and clean. Curves, naturally, you're gonna start, you know, folding it over here, and then it's gonna get really, really tight around the edges because it's just, you're stretching the whole fabric out. Easy way to fix that, just go through and give some snips halfway through all the way around. Super duper easy. You know, keep them a couple inches away from each other, but now we see, as you fold this thing over, these little cuts want to open up. So as you fold those guys over and you glue them down, there's nothing is feeling like it's being forced too much. The goal here is to make sure this cloth sticks, and it will. Just go a little bit above and beyond, make sure everything is nice and tidy. But once you get your screws in and they're mounted to the wall, like it's really not gonna come apart. But make sure you do use enough glue and follow these little techniques and your life is gonna be easy, easy. So again, come through here. This is a tighter radius, so we might need to do some cuts that are a little bit closer together. And then the same thing with the corners right here. Now we have a beautiful little panel that is ready to be glued. So, I already have some glue on the outside. It's not fully dry, it's still a little tacky, but what we're gonna wanna do, go through the perimeter of this. And then that's it. So we're gonna let that sit for 2 to 5 minutes. So if you have a nice long edge, like we are gonna have up here, we'll fold it, we'll just lift it up and get it glued in and then use a little bit of a roller. You can use a dowel, something like that. But what we're trying to avoid is like a wavy looking, you know, yanking the thing down. So nice clean edge, and I'll show you guys what I mean. So I like to just get underneath this guy and just get a good fold so we can see it's starting to stick. We want to get this thing nice and even. So there we go. So this guy right here. So I'm not trying to pull too much. Kind of wanted to roll nice and evenly to go through. So that way, by just grabbing individual pieces and pulling them, will leave to like kind of a wavy look. So I would say start with the long edges first, and then, you know, roll this stuff down as you go. And now you have these guys. Again, just a nice even roll, get it to stick. Now we have our little corner. Just yank that thing nice and tight. These corners, you do want to pull on them. Good, good. And this one's going to be a little bit harder. So I'll just take my whole hand. See all the little slits we made, how tight everything would have been if we didn't make those slits. So again, super important you put those little guys in there, and then your corners, like there's very little material right there that will get in the way of your walls, will get in the way of anything that you've already measured out and made super clean. So still feels tacky. It's been sitting for a little bit. So you might have to take your scissors Get a little bit more. Especially around these tight little corners. It's like how much that spreads out. So you need to be crafty with your scissors, a little bit crafty with your cuts. Now we have a nice, clean, ready to install panel. Just go again, put it against the light. Make sure you don't have any bubbles. If you do, just kind of roll them out towards the edge. That's ready to go. And if you do need to drill holes in the thing, one of the best ways to do it, this stuff isn't gonna cut very well, but if you get either like a pair of pliers and hold a razor blade and get a torch, draw out whatever you need to cut out, and then you'll torch through it, get it nice and hot, because it will melt instead of cut. This stuff does fray. So, after all this glue has dried, the stuff is flammable. I'll take my little torch and I'll heat up my little poker and I'll smooth out these edges and make sure none of this stuff is gonna fray out and get ugly later on. But that's it. And again, nice pretty panel, super easy. And this is an awesome thing to learn how to do. If you want your van looking super pro, I would do this with all of your walls and do something fun and interesting with your ceiling.